Hey mama, do you find yourself wishing you knew you were on the right path with your business? Or wanting to know how to do it all as a work-at-home mom and entrepreneur? If you struggle with imposter syndrome, mom guilt, or fear of failure, then you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Alexia, a Christian mindset coach passionate about teaching moms how to renew their minds to find success both in business and motherhood. You can overcome the negative thoughts holding you back from fully stepping into your calling. I know what it's like to worry your business will never work, to feel mom guilt every time you work on your business, to realize your mindset is hindering you, but not knowing how to change it in a Christ-centered way. I created the Mama with a Calling podcast to teach you how to use the powerful combination of God's Word and proven mindset strategies to help you break free from negative, paralyzing thoughts and gain clarity and confidence to go where God is leading you. As you step out of the old way of thinking and into God's way, you'll find more peace, joy, and purpose. Pop in those earbuds and get ready to let God work in you so He can work through you. Hey there, thank you for joining me today for another episode of the podcast. My name is Alexia Carrillo. I know there are a lot of podcasts out there that you could be choosing to listen to right now, but you found your way here today, either back again for another episode or you're new. So I am so grateful for you. Before I get into the episode today, I want to remind you that I do have 3 one-on-one coaching spots that are open right now. There are 2 spots pending. So it's first come, first serve. But I'd love to invite you to join me on a confusion to clarity call if you're even considering coaching and you really want that extra one-on-one support to help you navigate and figure out where God is calling you and then actually walking that path. So typically I work with clients over the course of about 4 to 12 weeks. And in that time, we identify and overcome every mindset block that comes your way as you navigate and follow where God is leading you. So it's a combo of one-on-one Zoom calls and 24/7 Voxer support, which is such a blessing to my clients. So I know it'll be a benefit for you as well. So if you are tired of getting in your own way and you're ready to take action doing what God is leading you to do, then I would love to support you as your coach. To get started, go to mamawithacalling.com/confusion to clarity to book that free clarity session call, and we will get started, figure out what you need to do for your next steps, and go from there. All right, today I want to talk about something we all want, and that is to see God work in our business and our lives. So if you're like me, then you've always wanted to make a difference in the world, right? You want to impact people for good. You want to help and serve and do something with purpose, something with meaning. Oftentimes, this desire to do good originates from a place of wanting to do good in Jesus' name, to do the good in the world. Like that goodness comes from God, right? But it gets twisted along the way, and you often find yourself thinking about things that you will do, the amazing impact that you will have, how, your strength and your drive and your good heart, that these are the things that are really going to be allowing you to make the impact in the world. And God kind of moves to the background, but God doesn't just stay in the background. He's not going to just stay in the background. And then what happens is you kind of go along and God's just waiting. And then you feel this call to do something different with your life. For me, that was to be home with my son, to start an online business. That's probably what a lot of you are thinking too, if you're listening to this podcast, is that you want to start an online business, or just a business in general. And when that happens, and I've heard this time and time again, that you want to refocus and you start to think, okay, I want this to be about God. Like I want to serve God with my business. And I hear this from clients all the time, and it's front and center. Like they're really focused on how can I have my business serve God? How can I make sure I'm doing what God is wanting me to do? But it's also really hard because the number one comment I hear from clients is they want to know that the desire they're feeling about doing this thing, doing this business, is actually serving God and not just their own desire and stuff. And I think that comes from a place of an awareness that for so long that was the case, on accident usually, and that now their eyes are kind of open and you're like, okay, wait, I don't want to do it that way. But when you spent so much of your life and your career going after what you want, because it's what our world tells us to do, that's what we're kind of trained to do. When you do that for so long with I don't want to say no consideration for God, but we're kind of doing what we want, what the path says. Like if you're going to be a doctor, you follow the path to be a doctor. If you're going to be a scientist, you follow the path to be a scientist. Like you just do whatever the path says. And so that means usually that we're not really, or at least this wasn't my experience. I wasn't praying along the way. I did in college when I was deciding what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. But then after that, I just like ran away, like ran off. Thanks God, I got it. And so it's often unintentional that we do this. But when I felt called to leave and do a business, it started to shift like, whoa, like how I've lived my whole life kind of for myself. And now there's this awareness that God could call me to something, that God has a plan for my life. And there's something that I'm supposed to do in this world to help other people, to serve other people. And so when that happens, you have to train your mind and your heart to now focus on Him, on God, as you're making these decisions in your business. You have to learn how to hear His voice guiding you. So I was recently reading through Psalms, and this passage in Psalm 44, like the whole Psalm 44 just kind of stood out to me. But overall, it's talking about how they are saying they like, we know what God has done for our ancestors, and we know what He's done for us. We know that the wins and the successes that we've seen and heard about, they didn't come from our own power, but from God's power, from God Himself. He's the one who brought the victory. Verses 5-8 summarize it well. It says, "Through you we push down our foes. Through your name we tread down those who rise up against us. For not in my bow do I trust, nor can my sword save me. But you have saved us from our foes and have put to shame those who hate us. In God we have boasted continually, and we will give thanks to your name forever." And this got me thinking about the book of Joshua. As the children of Israel crossed into the promised land, they had to fight for what was theirs. It wasn't just like, here it is. It's like, here it is, and I've prepared the way, but you still have to show up to battle. Like they had to go into battle. But it wasn't really their sword or military prowess that won the battles. It was God. Yes, they fought, but the stories they told aren't, look how awesome we fought. It was like the stories they told generation after generation was, look what God did. Look how amazing God was. So yes, they physically fought. They showed up. They had a sword. They were fighting, sword in hand, but they weren't confused where their success actually came from. And there is this combined effort you see here. They show up and God does the work through what they're doing. And here's the part that really stood out to me. In order to see the amazing works of God, in order to see God show up like that, in order to see Him win their battles in these amazing ways and how He was fighting those battles for them, they had to actually be in the battle, right? They couldn't just sit back at camp and imagine being in a battle, but instead they needed to physically show up to a battle, go to battle and do it. And it was in that place of action, being where God was, like they needed to go there. So, and that's where God showed up. And this happens time and time again in the Bible where God fights the battle for them, but they still have to show up. And there's not just battles, but other things like, God will provide food, but there's something you have to do to show up. Like you have to do something. And so sometimes it's presented as like the person does simply show up. They don't actually fight anyone, like with Gideon and his men. They just kind of showed up and made noise, and then God took care of it. Or it's showing up to fight and God intervenes to aid in the fighting and to win the battle, like with Joshua. So this has applications for us today as well. So in order to see the amazing things that God will do through your business, you have to show up fully in your business, doing the marketing, doing the sales, offering your products to people. How can you see God provide abundantly through your business if you barely talk about your offer, or you're constantly shying away from even starting the business? How can you see that impact and the blessing that your work is going to have in the lives of others if you don't show up? And even in my wording there, like, I know I'm saying you and your business, and it is, but God is going to be working through what you're doing. So it's like, but God can't work through you if you're not moving. Have you ever heard those amazing stories of how someone follows God down a crazy path?
one that doesn't seem to make sense at all. And it involves a lot of sacrifice, a lot of surrender, a lot of trust. But then God does amazing things along the way. He provides abundantly in ways they could have never imagined. People are transformed in really big, amazing ways. Collaborations fall into place they never even dreamed of happening. And it's so very clear through those things that God is at work. Like, it's not them. Like, they are aware, and everybody else can clearly see. Like, this is beyond what a person can do. And this happens when we go where God leads us to go. It doesn't mean the road is easy. Like I said, sacrifice, surrender, trust. Those are not easy things to do. But it does mean that when we go where our natural talent and abilities are limited and we reach their end, then we can clearly see that it's God at work. And it is so encouraging when you realize God is at work in what you are doing. Talk about that proverbial neon arrow of this is the way. You are in the right place. So I know it can be scary to venture into this new place that God is leading you, like quitting your job, changing your career, making big life changes, starting a business in your 30s, 40s, 50s, starting a YouTube channel, podcast. It feels wild, but you can trust God. Go where He is leading. Take your foot off the brake. Stop trying to be safe. It's so natural. It's our human kind of instinct for a lot of us, is just to keep ourselves safe. But I want this to bring awareness to you, to show you what's happening. Your mind, your body wants to be safe, as in there's fear, there's doubt, there's worry. What is this? It feels new. It's different. And when all of that starts happening, it's hard. Unless you are intentionally overriding that, you will not move forward. You will not take action. So I want to bring this to your awareness, because you can only experience how God is going to work and show Himself to you if you actually venture forward, right? So one of my favorite books is Experiencing God. I highly, highly recommend it. I'll put a link in the description below. But I love that book because it highlights what can happen when you follow where God is leading. And those kinds of stories are so encouraging and so amazing. Another book that I recently read, which was amazing, is called Living Fearless by Jamie Winship. And that one is another one of really amazing examples of you have no idea what God's doing. You're simply saying yes. You say yes, and then you listen to God every step of the way, and to see what happens. His books are amazing. I will warn you, you will be, it's huge, transformational book, to read that one as well. And he has lots of videos on YouTube and podcasts and stuff that are amazing to listen to. But my point is, I don't want you to miss out on the amazing things that God has for you. But it's not just about you, right? It's you get to experience that because you're going to be in it. But really, it's about what God is going to do. The things that God has planned to do through you, the impact He's going to have, the change in your community, the change in people around the world, depending on whatever it is you're doing. So I want to encourage you to take this and use this as fuel to move forward. If you need help in this area, again, I have one-on-one coaching. I have single sessions if you just want to work something out. And then I have longer packages. I would love to support you in that. Go to the link in the description below, and you can do this. You can move forward into what God is calling you to do. I hope this helps you this week as you are following where God is leading you. And until next time, keep pursuing your calling.
Thanks for listening to the Mama with a Calling podcast. As always, you'll find the show notes for today's episode at mamawithacalling.com/podcast. Really quick before you head out, are you loving these episodes? To make sure this podcast gets in the ears of as many mamas as possible, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I'm going to be reading your reviews on the podcast, so I can't wait to hear from you. Also, if you know someone that needs to hear these episodes, grab a screenshot and share it on Instagram, and don't forget to tag me at Mama with a Calling so I can share it in my stories. Until next time, keep pursuing your calling.